Welcome again to the Intentionalist podcast. This is episode 6. Thank you for being here. This is the platform for building hope, inspiration, and motivation to live the most intentional life that you desire. I am your host. My name is Coach Alice Mohirwa. I am the woman who, who is on the journey of building herself, who is on the journey of living an intentional life. And this podcast was created to create a platform so that you can also start reviewing your lifestyle, reviewing your decision-making on various areas such as womanhood, boundaries, lifestyle, communication skills, pursuing your desires, and in all that with intentionality. Welcome to this episode. I have a special guest. We are going to discuss a topic that is so dear to us, a topic that I've seen many people struggle with, that is childhood wounds. What is childhood wounds? How they affect us, how they interfere in our everyday dealings, that is confidence building, self-esteem, negotiation skills. How does childhood wounds affect us and how to circumvent them in a relationship? How do they affect our womanhood? How do they affect our sense of worth? My guest is a so known friend for me. She has been there in my life for quite some time. I have known her for quite some time, and she was the adequate guest for this episode. Allow me to introduce you to Faith.
Thank you, Alice, for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm honored to be part of this movement. I call it a movement because we don't have a lot of voices, of African voices and young African girls voicing their experiences and how possibly this is affecting their decision making.
Yes.
Because we are always under a certain cultural observance that sometimes we don't have the courage to challenge or to even speak about our experience about it.
Thank you. I'm honored that you are willing to not only come and talk about your personal experience and what you think is possibly the way forward and how to destigmatize this kind of experiences that we are going to talk about.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, grab your tea, grab your coffee. It's going to be hot. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How has it been? How has your childhood been? Because we are going to talk about childhood wound. Why do you think this has really affected your growth as a woman?
My childhood was average as per the context.
Yes.
However, in my own experience and what I would, as an adult, I would want to take my kids through,
Yes.
I would find it tumultuous and a bit chaotic.
Yes.
Yes, that's how I would describe
Why
my
would you
childhood
say
in one word.
chaotic? What
Because
setup did you find yourself in?
I was born of two parents at
Yes,
first, and
yes.
then eventually I was ushered into a shared parenting where I felt like I had more than one mother.
Yes.
My born mother and my dad had other wives
Yes.
who entered the arrangement of
Yes.
the marriage of my parents that I felt like was inconveniencing to me as a child.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you happen to know that your family is actually in a polygamous setting?
When my dad didn't come home.
That's a good answer.
Yes.
And what did your mom say? What were the responses? Because sometimes you can say, oh, daddy is busy, daddy has flown, daddy has gone for a workshop, daddy is working abroad, and he's around. So what was the answer?
So I don't remember posing these questions to my mom because somehow within the environment, there was just that underlying fear of parents.
Yes.
And we didn't have the courage to ask our parents such questions. But I remember I was in class 4 when one day I just saw a truck and movers and people building right behind our shamba. The formative years of my life, I grew up in the village setting.
Yes.
So I remember just a building going up and my dad was supervising it. And before I know it, there was a party and a whole other family was ushered into our backyard.
Oh.
So that was very interesting to see, because then, of course, there were whispers around and I could tell
Yes.
that these are my kinsmen. These are people who are related to me, and my dad was living with them.
Yes.
So then very quickly I was ushered to my stepmom.
Yes.
So I was not
was there any formal introduction that, hey, this is what is going to happen? Our family has grown. This is your new auntie or your new mama?
No.
There was no
My dad didn't have that conversation with us. And my mom, I think, was in a lot of shame and disappointment. She also didn't have the courage to have a conversation with us. However, we knew something was off because we were home with our mom and there was no daddy. But we could see in the marketplace, my dad was present. I could see him going to visit his mother, was my grandmother, but not sleeping with us.
Yeah.
So and my mom was not going. So it wasn't a divorce per se. It was a transition into a polygamous
relationship.
family.
Okay.
Yes.
What has been in that space, your relationship with your dad?
So I don't think at that point I had any solid relationship. Like any African setting in the 90s,
Yes.
we didn't, I think, have any expectation from our parents. We were supposed to just obey and follow. So whatever I thought was maybe a relationship, I would call it guidance, where my dad would come and give instructions and then would stay within such auspices.
Yeah.
However,
Yes.
when I didn't now have access to him at night and in the morning, I knew something is off.
Yes.
And now another family was having him full time. But I
Yes.
could see him maybe drive off
Yeah.
past our gate while going to the marketplace and drive back, but not come to our home. So I think that is when my stepmother, who was second wife to my dad, was very young and she was receiving all the tender love and care. And as we were busy, just looking through the windows, has daddy come, has he left?
What feelings did you develop with that? And what kind of maybe wound that do you think has that constant reality check has built in you?
The first feeling I remember feeling, now that I can name the feelings, because then it was just a conglomerate of feelings, or should I say
anger.
an amalgamation of bad feelings.
Yes.
But the first feeling I can name was inadequacy. I felt like, am I not good enough? Why doesn't daddy come home? Did we do something wrong?
Oh, yeah.
Why is he not coming here? Why is there another beautiful woman? Is my mom ugly?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we didn't have answers. And them days, there was so much shame, or rather, there was a level of acceptability required of the first wife to not question the decision of a man to bring a second wife.
Oh, yeah.
And Alice, allow me to say this. When you called me and told me you like me to come and share my experience,
Yes.
I was very confused. So I decided to go to the host herself of these feelings. And I called my mother today morning. And it was very triggering for me. And I think I'm still in that space, actually. Because when I called my mom, her level of acceptability and her view on this matter was very different from mine.
Okay.
Because for her, I'm the fourth born.
Yes.
We are a family of 16 if I count my stepbrothers and sisters.
Yes.
So my dad married when I was born. I'm the fourth born and the third girl.
Yes.
So my mom's experience is she was having many baby girls.
Okay.
And the society wanted boys because my dad was a man of a good social standing and means, according to that context.
Yes.
And he needed inheritance and people who can inherit.
Culturally, it's the boy.
Yes. So when I was a girl, because there was no way of finding out the gender before I was born. So the day I was born, my dad threw a huge tantrum. And it was very graphic because he came, raised my legs, found out that I'm a girl, and threw my legs down and stormed out. And that's when the debate of second wife started. And even his parents, to be fair, I love them. And may God rest their souls, were very encouraging. And they told him, go ahead, we want boys. This woman is giving birth to frogs.
That's the knowledge they had. They didn't know.
And they were calling girls frogs. These are and trust me, it was in a loving setting. I'm not saying there was any abuse or hatred. But just by the fact
that was the accepted language. By the
though
it is abusive.
Now that I look at it from my education and my exposure now,
Yeah.
I think it was wrong.
Yes.
But when you're receiving that abuse and you don't think it's abuse, it's normalcy for you. You don't know how to handle it.
True, I agree.
So then my dad was encouraged to find a woman who can give birth to baby boys. So then my mom was ushered into that trauma, raising me. She was telling me today that she had to raise me without even food sometimes, without any means. Because now, when a woman is freshly married to a man who has another wife, there's that level of abandonment that happens to the first wife.
Yeah.
And now my mom was experiencing it when I was very little.
Very fresh.
So I feel like we were experiencing it together.
Yeah, true, you are.
Yeah. So she was leaning on me and I was like 0 years.
Wow. How did that affect your sense of femininity growing up? How do you understand it, having experienced that from childhood, that probably you have to be on your own, probably you're not adequate enough, you're not worthy loving, you're not worthy caring? How does that affect you as a woman?
I think it has affected me a lot, if I'm being extremely honest.
Yeah.
And this is very invasive. I felt like I'm penetrating my biggest walls by thinking about this question.
Yeah.
And it's bringing a lot of either healing or, I don't know, this something in the air where I have to face some difficult parts of me that I had hidden.
Yeah.
Of course, there was that feeling of I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Women are not good enough. Men have this ultimate power over us. And the genderism aspect was injected into me early. Like, as a woman, you have to stay back and allow the man to make the decisions, even if they don't favor you. And even if it taught me to accept a lot of mistreatment from, because I interpreted it as if my mom stayed married after all that she went through, then marriage is, no matter what, for better, for worse, you have to stay.
Okay.
So I do not even quantify what should make you leave a man.
Okay.
So I was introduced to the fact that you have to stay, whether the relationship is abusive or not. You have to weather the storm and stay for the sake of your children, stay for the sake of the family. So it affected my choices and my rights of independence.
Okay, can we speak? Does that has much to do, if I can understand it very well, with the spectrum of your self-confidence? Or, self-confidence, self-esteem, to voice your desires? Because I'm seeing anticipation. You're anticipating rejection. So you are choosing to hold on whatever is supplied. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even feel like I have to earn love. Because if I take you back to my childhood, now that I was the fourth born and we are 16 siblings, meaning there were 12 other siblings that were born after me.
Yes.
From now the several wives that my dad ended up having.
Yes.
And my mom as well.
Yeah.
So I felt like for me to have visibility and attention from my dad as a parent, I needed to earn it. So either I needed to work so hard in school. I was a grade A student, and my dad would hear a rumor in the village, hey, your daughter is doing so well. And then he could come home and ask, which daughter? Which daughter was top of class? So then I would that was my moment to shine and be seen. So I would be like, hey, daddy, look at my report. I got all the A's. I was top of district. So then he would give me money,
Yeah.
So that approval, I felt like, has to be earned by excellence, right?
And by excellence.
I didn't feel like just by being me, that is enough.
Yeah, true.
And then I was exposed to that toxic way
trading merits
of earning.
Yeah.
So then I felt like everything in any relationship I have to go into, be it a friendship, be it a marriage, I have to earn that person.
Wow.
By
and
doing
does
something
it also
good for
work
them.
with did you export those patterns even in adulthood? That is maybe work related relationships or friendships, social friendships.
Yes.
Did you carry the same patterns?
Then I became addicted to compliments. Like now I would always solicit them. Like, I want you to tell me you did well, you are best of class, you're well dressed, you did. So either I'm standing out or I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. You understand? So I cannot be average and feel enough. So my confidence plummeted, especially when I feel like I'm not rising to the occasion. I'm not having the right money for the age I am. I'm not having the right job.
So you don't enjoy the process. You enjoy results.
Yes. And if I cannot track the results, then I become very, very depressed.
Yeah.
And sometimes I cannot even wake up. If I'm not excellent or not winning, I can't even wake up. I hibernate, I hide because I feel very, very, very.
Because you are only validating factors are not there.
Yes.
So you feel invalid when there is no success. Yes. Okay, I understand. And I would like to know, how do you navigate that in relationships? Because I mean romantic relationship, because sometimes I don't even understand the kind of success that is going to be like, well, if my man kisses me every morning, that's that's a milestone, or that's a parameter of success. If there is sex every day, if there is, it can be an indicator. If there is, hey baby, how are you? I love you. Bye. What were the indicators that kept validating you that this is love? Because if you are driven by validation most of the time, what kind of validation a woman who has childhood wounds is seeking in a partner?
Wow, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
If I have to look at my maybe longest relationships.
Yes,
and
yes.
how I...
Yeah, we are analyzing a pattern, so it has to be multiple.
Oh, yeah. So basically, when I enter relationships, I'm the star of the relationship. Like, that man is overwhelmed by my giving, my cooking, my dressing, my candles, flowers, So I rise up to the occasion. I feel like I'm competing with the world.
Yeah, true.
So I have to be like, let me tell you a funny story.
Okay, go ahead.
The first time I sleep over.
Yeah.
I cannot allow the man to see me like a human being or less than perfect, right?
Yes, true.
So I'll wake up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
and go and shower and brush my teeth, so that when I go back to bed and I wake up like
with a fresh air.
This. Yes.
Okay.
And then I will make breakfast, and I will make the best breakfast he's ever eaten. In fact, if he doesn't say this, the breakfast
continental
food I've had,
then
I didn't do a good job. Tomorrow I'll do even better shopping and make the best breakfast. And then I want to clean the house. I want to I just show up as the best quintessential woman on paper.
Yeah, like a whole rounder.
Yes, and it's very manufactured. It's very unnatural.
Yeah, it is.
Because I could even go to the toilet and cry, but come back and smile and present the best version of me.
And what happens when, after all those efforts, there is that validation that you're looking for, or it is delayed? Do you have the patience to overperform and come back, do the same?
I think I've overperformed for such. I remember, I don't know when to leave, because I don't know my value or my worth. So I stay as long as he's keeping me there. I feel like he's choosing me, and I have that ability. I really need to be chosen.
Oh wow! So how does that? Well, maybe I'm jumping, but if you have those validating delays that hold you into a space until you are validated, then how do you know it is maybe in the workplace? How do you know if it is the right time to move? Because you are waiting for everyone to notice your relevance.
I never know. I'm always having blurred boundaries, because either my self-worth is dependent on the other person's decision or validation of me.
Oh yeah.
So now taking that power back is a journey I'm embarking on, and I'm happy we're here discussing this, because this is very indelible in my life.
Yes, true.
Creating those boundaries, I even question my own boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm like, are this enough? Am I not infringing their rights? Don't they need me to perform?
Yeah.
So I feel like, even choosing myself, I feel like it's extremely selfish.
Oh yeah, because it was not there before.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So either
does it have much to do with being? there are people who believe that they're naturally people pleaser, but they are becoming that people pleaser by default, maybe by the upbringing, because you needed that validation to at least have the small attention from your dad. And then you people pleasing might say, hey, these are my merits. You overwork yourself. This, because there is no such a thing that my dad is my dad. He has to love me. So you always outplayed,
Yes, outperformed,
over-delivered
Yes.
for you to feel in a certain way.
Yes. And I still felt like maybe I never met myself until recently.
Yeah.
Because I was always working within the superhero girl in me.
Yeah.
In order to earn love and to earn friendships. And then...
How lasting is that? And sustainable? Can we talk about sustainability?
It's
lasting?
not sustainable because you end up hating yourself.
Yeah.
And I didn't meet self-hatred until I met you, actually. Because you're the one who started now pointing. Remember, yes, we've been friends, but you are a life coach and you've applied some of your knowledge to me indirectly or even directly. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know self-hatred could be putting your needs last.
Yeah, true.
I didn't even know how to interpret my choices until I had to look at them from a third eye perspective.
Yes, true.
Yes, and then now to investigate the series of events that led me to make the choices I make.
Yes.
Yes. So I was always wearing the masquerade or the representative of who I am and who I think will be loved and accepted, that I hid who I am from myself for such a long time. So even the men, if I go back to the love issue, maybe we're loving the wrong version of me that is
whatever you have portrayed, the version that you have portrayed.
That I think if I package it this way, it will be loved.
It will be more
accepted.
sellable.
Yes.
The marketing.
So facing myself and building my confidence organically by being myself.
Yeah.
Which I still feel like that one is not enough, so it cannot be chosen, right?
Do you feel that way in this moment? Like maybe this inadequate, ugly version of myself, this organic me, might not necessarily be loved, because people with childhood wounds have this tendency to always feel like they need to do some seasoning for them to be liked, for them to be loved, for them to be accepted. Then that seasoning might be being a gatekeeper, being a fixer, being an enabler.
Yeah, it's my worst fear was rejection.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was rejected from birth.
Oh, yeah.
And rejection can be interpreted differently, but in my context, I felt like it came from my dad and my mom eventually, because then she could look at me as the turning point of her marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So in as much as they loved me, the feeling was innately deep that I'm rejected. So then I will give you a representative that cannot be rejected because it's perfect.
Oh, wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
So now going back to the rejection version of me that I'm ashamed of, now I needed to work on that and make her feel like she's enough. So I don't remember, and many African babies, to be fair, I don't think were pampered a lot or loved and hugged enough or kissed enough and affirmed enough that they are enough, that, falling in that pool, if I identify what I would do differently now, is to face that young girl who thinks if she's not doing well in school and not the prettiest in the group or not anything, she's not good enough.
It's so funny and interesting at the same time, because the kind of behavior and patterns that you are currently describing are common to me on what I dealt with when it comes to childhood wounds, even if I had a very wonderful father-daughter relationship growing up. But because being a firstborn, I never had the most mother-daughter relationship, because I was considered as a little mother to my youngest children, my youngest sisters, and I was punished most of the time because something happened and I was the firstborn. You overlooked this, you overlooked that. To perform and to please her, to get credit, I had to do certain things.
Yes.
And I think my people-pleasing was born then. But all the behavior you have described, people-pleasing, buying your way out, overperforming yourself, always going for excellence of nothing, or when you are middle, you feel like you have failed completely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not having enough grace to yourself. I think they are the same. So are we able to have same childhood wound from different perspectives and they act the same, I think?
I think so. And I'm happy you're even drawing parallels between our experiences.
Yeah.
And I think the best thing you are doing is these conversations,
Yeah.
because then we'll have to investigate why we are the way we are.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how deep or how grave your childhood experience is.
Yes.
It's what shapes who we are now.
Yes, true.
Now having the courage to face it, and name it,
Yes.
and work on it is what makes
and
the
not
difference.
blame, because
Yes.
I think most of the time people are stuck in the rant of blaming, oh, my mother, oh, my father, oh, that's what they had.
Yeah.
That's I'm glad you are able to have that conversation with your mom.
Yes.
Her perspective will never be
The same as
the
mine.
same as yours. Her level of analysis will never match yours, because she also had a lot on her plate. Our healing is our responsibility, and this is one of the main purpose of this podcast is to know that you can build hope, know that you can shift, know that you can grow, know that you can rebrand yourself and become someone else who has hope, who build hope, who parent better, who see life in a different lens than what you saw and experienced.
Yeah.
I would like to know, what do you think had been or the society contribution on glorifying and normalizing polygamy when it comes to men, and how women are misguided and they are left out and protected? So I believe your mom being left with all those children has to face the shame to wake up in the morning, go to church, go to work, sometime attending family events and has to justify what is going on.
Yeah.
I've never seen in any event where people are asking a man, why did you marry a second wife? Who is that? They will always want to come to the woman and ask them, by the way, who is that? What did we hear? What was her journey?
That's a very powerful question.
Yeah.
And it's profound, really, because I've spent the whole of the night just thinking.
Yeah.
You'll find the society is largely patriarchal.
I agree.
And even if you look at the fundamentalist churches or the religious beliefs that embrace polygamy, or like the Church of Jesus, like the Muslims, their reasonings still are not necessarily justifiable from my feminist woman perspective.
Yeah.
And if you look at polygamy itself, in the practicality of it, it's almost very discriminatory against the woman.
Okay.
In my perspective,
Yes,
because
it
I have
is.
lived the experience as a child, not as a wife, but as a child born into it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like so long as my mom was the first wife, so she was the abandoned wife. Because if she's the first wife and then there was a second, it means there was someone better than her, quote unquote.
Yes.
Who was married then and added to the family to add value or to make my dad more comfortable or to fulfill the needs of the society in that marriage.
Yes.
So already my mom had no choice in the matter because she was not consulted.
Yeah.
And even if there are women who are consulted, I talked to 3-4 today.
Yes. Oh.
Yes, before I came, I asked them, what is your experience on polygamy?
Yes.
Do you enjoy it? Do you like it? Are you happy?
Yes.
You'll find the first wife largely is not happy.
Yeah, because it was not out of consent.
Yes. Her main purpose for marriage was the God-given purpose for marriage.
Yes.
To procreate and create a family alone.
Yes.
And unless she had this inability to give birth,
Yes.
like the examples in the Bible, inability to give birth or any other grave disease where she's incapacitated as a woman, she doesn't find any reason why the man should marry because she still needs the man.
Yes.
So now when the man then makes a decision without consulting her, or even if he informs her and she's like, yes, because of, should I call it obedience?
Yeah.
And then the man goes,
Submission.
the woman hurts for the rest of her life.
Yeah, I think so.
I can tell you because I have seen depression.
Yes.
I have seen my mom extremely depressed.
Yeah.
I've seen her ashamed.
Yes.
I have seen her embarrassed. I've seen her resentful.
Yes.
And the fact that even now, me as a grown-up kid, I would of course, eventually understand and love my dad regardless.
Yeah.
And understand his choices and even want to embrace his choices by being friends with my stepmother, maybe being close to my stepsisters and brothers, I will still see the pain in my mom's eyes.
Oh yeah.
And her
So
experience.
she's like, you have to embrace it. It is what it
Yes.
is.
Imagine, let me bring an example home. How you feel when a boyfriend cheats on you.
Yeah.
Now imagine that jealousy being permanent, moving in permanently without paying rent. So the jealousy moves in for the rest of your life, and there's evidence of it.
Yeah,
there are even
there are
children born out
yeah,
of it, and you have
yeah.
to live with it. Every family function, every Christmas, you have to be reminded that.
Well, I've known polygamy from a distance because my dad was born from a polygamous family as well. But by the time we were growing up, they were already normal. I just hear stories. So I'm trying to understand, does that man come back even to the first wife to stay, to sleep there, to have a moment with the children? Or when he moved to the second family, it is over with the first one?
That really depends on the ability and capacity of the man.
Yeah.
And also the heart of the second woman.
Oh, yes.
Because if the second woman also did not know she can be jealous and then she discovered on the job, she will not let that man go back to the first wife. Because she also wants a normal family. She wants her husband home. She wants her husband available
she's
to the
managing
kids.
by scarcity.
Yes.
That I might also experience
and
the same.
manipulation starts coming in. And I dare say, I didn't want to use this example, but it's with us, we are Africans.
Yeah.
Now that jealousy starts begetting manipulation, and when you are unable to manipulate this husband to go back to the first wife, people start using clairvoyant powers to keep the man to themselves.
Yeah, yes.
And then the man feels so torn between these two.
Yeah.
And it's so rare to find two wives. Very rare. The man always balances the equation by going for the third wife. Because the competition between the first two is too stiff that he cannot win. So he's like, okay, I want to rest. Let me just go find a third one. Then now everyone is even.
Yeah.
You understand? Because there's that superiority complex that comes into the second wife who feels like I was brought here to fix shit, to fix issues.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because the first one was not good enough.
Yeah. Or you come with a certain element of superiority.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a story she's served.
Yeah.
That you're coming here to feel the inadequacy of the first one. She's not.
Yeah, the first wife is always the evil in the equation. I understand.
Yeah.
Then I'm seeing instability, moving from one setting to another, moving from first marriage, second marriage. In your eye, as a child, has this affected your ability to be stable?
Yes.
Or you feel like there's nothing permanent in my life?
Yes. There's a level of chaoticness.
Yes.
Or rather anomalies that are introduced because normal family settings, things are done a certain way. In a polygamous family setting, there's a lot of parameters that are introduced.
Yes.
And the children, without knowing, have to suffer, if that's the right word, the choices of the parents.
Yeah, of course.
So of course you're already suffering the choice of time.
Yes.
Because there's no way your dad will have enough time.
Yes, of
for
course.
For you, for the wives, and for the other family's children.
Yeah.
And then even the resources, whatever, enough is very relative.
Yes, true, I agree.
Even the resources, because if then your dad remained with your mom, the resources would be enough for more.
Yeah.
So if the resources are then shared, you feel like there's some level of competition with the other siblings.
Yes, true.
So the instability is created when you feel like...
And also the standard is diluted as the number goes.
Yes. Then there's the blame game. There's a lot of betrayal.
Yes.
Even the in-laws and the family has to choose between the two. Your aunties have to choose, am I visiting this family or that family of my brother? Yeah. Your grandmother has to. So when you feel like now there's favoritism, as a child, from your perspective, you find it to be favoritism.
Yeah.
Because like right now that I'm grown and my brother would have maybe two different children or two different women, honestly, I cannot choose who I love more. And, for the children, when you're choosing the children from this other woman, they feel like you'd love them less.
Yeah, true, I agree.
So then they grow up with that mentality until they can know better.
Wow.
So that causes a lot of instability, yes.
Instability. And negotiation. When you are going into negotiation, this is not necessarily work related. Do you find that it's hard for myself to negotiate to my worth? Is there a fear limitation? You negotiate. I don't want to put with an empty stomach. You negotiate with scarcity by saying that.
Scarcity mentality where you feel like something can be taken away from me.
Oh, yeah.
Or I feel like I have to wear the shame of my mother and I represent her. Because now in this case where my dad has a choice, then my mom is left as the needy one in this sense because she's the one chasing now the scarce resource. So already I'm introduced to scarcity.
Yeah.
I'm introduced to something that can never be yours. So then you negotiate with a lot of fear. You approach life with a lot of fear. Even if you have something good, you're afraid even to hold it because you're like, what if I lose it?
Yeah.
Then that anxiety is introduced to everything. And the energy within you can be exuded.
Conflicting.
And felt. And then someone does not know why they are not liking you. They don't know why they are uncomfortable around you. They're like, this
because you're overdoing.
Is good, but because you're already introducing anxiety to every situation.
Yeah, true. You're doing too much.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. And then when did you realize that this kind of behavior, this pattern is because of my upbringing? Then I can't change that. I can't fix it. How do I have to deal with my wants and claim my worth, work on my feminine, work on my worth and claim it assertively?
I think I'm still discovering. I cannot even say I know it all
Yeah,
in terms
true.
of when I know when the childhood or the little girl in me is playing out. However, I've failed a lot, and the way I interpret failure is so harsh to myself. It's so harsh, like something that someone will just laugh about. For me, I take it so personally, and then I carry that guilt with me everywhere. So inability to shed off bad decisions and just grow is as a result of my childhood, to be honest, because then it's the common denominator in every choice I make.
Yes, true, I agree. So who is Faith if she was allowed to introduce herself without any fear layer, without any fear of being misjudged, being misquoted, being rejected? Because sometimes you would package yourself, as you put it, in order to sell the version that you have, because you think the version you are truly can never be loved.
Loaded. Wow.
Yeah.
Faith is powerful, I dare say.
Yeah.
Because I can perceive the power. Faith is powerful. Faith is disruptive.
Yes.
She's a healer.
Yeah.
She's compassionate.
Yes.
And she likes to challenge the status quo.
Yes.
And now beyond the description, I need to be comfortable with that version of me,
Yes.
because it always begs to come out.
Have you been in instances where you feel like, because there is a version I want to sell, so I would rather dim myself and present the version that is acceptable in this platform?
Yes, I shrink a lot.
Yeah.
Shrinkage is my middle name. I shrink a lot. I shrink in friendships. I shrink at work.
Yes.
And especially,
Yeah.
I shrink at home. Especially. I don't know if you could interview most of the men I've dated, because they will tell you.
How many? No.
They will tell you this girl is so innocent. She's a walkover, really. She has a very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Some have even told me to my face.
Yeah.
And yet when I tell my girlfriends or tell people who don't know me well, they'll be like, no, that's a lie. You're so bold.
You're so bold, yeah.
No.
This is
such a
another
timid
thing
girl.
that people don't know. The most bold people that you will ever see have serious underlying issues.
Yes.
And serious underlying issues. So they stand behind that bold voice, that disruptive nature of doing things, but there's so much unsettledness in your heart.
Yeah.
When someone is settled, they don't have to be loud.
Exactly.
When someone is settled,
There's no comfort
Yes.
in me being vulnerable and soft. I feel like I'm so exposed and I'm about to just be dismantled.
Yes.
I'm about to be torn into pieces because
Yeah.
every time I presented myself as soft at a family level,
Yes.
I've had it coming. You understand? And this is the experience of my mom's journey because, when you are under the age of 18 years old,
Yeah.
I stopped living with my mom when I was 12, but when I was
Yes.
under the age of 18,
Yeah.
your mom's experiences are like almost like yours for the setting I came up from.
Yes.
Oh, my mom was always having me on her hip that I could live her life as a child.
Yeah.
So when I saw her being ostracized for being vulnerable
Yeah.
and being mistreated, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
I took those experiences as my own.
Yeah. Now that you are an adult, you are a woman of your own dreams. You are a woman of your own ambitions. You are a woman, I dare say, who is transformative. When did you give yourself the permission to change the narrative?
Assuming I've changed it.
Yeah, to change the narrative by saying that is her experience. My experience might have similarity in one way
I
or
had
another.
closure.
Yeah.
I had closure.
Yes.
In fact, there are two, it's a double-edged approach.
Yeah.
I'll approach it twice
Yeah.
in two ways.
Yeah.
I met a man who was from the Luo community.
Yes.
And he did not see anything wrong with polygamy.
Okay.
So I was laughing with him and saying, hey, I come from a polygamous. And to them, that's very normal. It's a bit more accepted. It's a bit more normalized.
Yes.
And it's celebrated even. It's almost celebrated. So I then started relaxing my standards on how much I hated polygamy and seeing, okay, it has benefited some communities. How about this, a perspective I missed?
Okay.
So then I started looking at it by removing myself in the situation and watching it.
In a different lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then my other experience is when I had closure with my dad.
Yeah.
Now, the older I got, the more I started having conversations with him. Then towards the end of his life, I was his primary caretaker, like when he was going through cancer and the diseases. I ended up being his caregiver, so I became close to him. And through that, I met the human in him. I met my dad, who's not now just a polygamous man like I had grown up.
Who is just your
labeling.
dad.
Yes. And when I reconciled my decisions by understanding him and his choices, I realized he's very human. He's a loving man. And he died and I had closure.
Yeah, with him.
Yeah. So when I forgave him, I forgave myself and I understood him actually.
Yeah.
Then I stepped out of that trouble and said, I need to heal. I need to change my mindset.
Yes.
And I need to write a new book.
Yes. Oh, I love that. There is that awareness, recognition, rediscovery, and now redirection.
Yes.
When we talk about that kind of journey, that I'm seeing you taking the courage to even have that particular understanding of what could be the root cause, what could be the dynamics, what are the dangers, what are the collateral damage within this polygamous arrangement, which are usually the kids and the left wives. What would you tell another girl who was born or who is finding out that their parents are in a certain situation? They are also ashamed because sometimes even explaining to your fellow kids, your fellow friends, that, okay, this is my brother, but from another mother. You are already introducing, you are not proud of mentioning that.
Yes,
So what would you tell your younger self about how childhood wound might affect your womanhood and the journey and what to expect and the healing process? What would you tell yourself, your younger self?
Good question. And I'll answer it in this manner. I would advise someone who is a victim of polygamy that polygamy is a construct of the society. The acceptability of it is subjective because, to be fair to some men, they are polygamous not because they're bad.
Yes.
And polygamy is not because people are bad.
Yes.
They make these choices based on societal advice. And most of the time, not absolutely right, but 100% some men make a polygamous choice to preserve the integrity of their first family. Instead of a divorce, if the woman doesn't want to end a relationship that maybe is toxic to both of them,
Yes.
he removes himself from the equation and marries, but keeping the family so that the family can have an identity.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Okay.
I know, because there's some women also who
Would rather keep a dead horse
yes.
than just not having a horse.
yes.
Okay.
Polygamy is a man or an African man's refusal of divorce. Like, this family, I brought this woman into my life. I take responsibility unless she wants to go.
Are there no scenarios where a woman would maybe allow the man to go to have another wife because probably she's not available, she's not sexually interested any longer?
So many success stories, I call them,
Yeah.
of polygamy.
Yeah.
And I have compassion for that situation, because that was not my experience.
Yeah,
so
true.
Maybe you could call like another guest for a different perspective, but my perspective was horrible.
Yeah.
However, there are such arrangements that
Yeah.
where polygamy is welcome and it's good.
Yeah.
So as a child of that home, please do not take responsibility as if you're not good enough. Your parents are making their choices based on their love experience and based on their marriage. It has nothing to do with the kids. In any case, if you're in a polygamous marriage, it's better than divorced arrangement. I don't know if I would say that.
Yeah.
But in terms of identity.
Yes, true.
In terms of identity and African family preservation and bloodline, it's arguably better, quote unquote, than divorce.
Well, I would like to know if at some point have you ever experienced identity crisis? And how did you deal with that?
I think I'm just a walking manifestation of identity crisis, because imposter syndrome is my biggest challenge. Where even when I'm deserving of anything, I feel like I'm not good enough.
Yeah, true.
How about maybe someone else? So I don't even respect my achievements.
Yeah.
And I don't value them. I don't even...
Is it a current thing? Because I'm seeing you're using present tense.
It just came out of my mouth.
I'm longing to hear that, like a past tense. Yeah. Or, past continuous maybe. But not current. Is it current?
It just came out of my mouth.
Okay, should I trust that
it's coming
sentence?
From a subconscious place.
Yeah.
Of course, being aware of things and speaking them out is a first step to healing.
Yeah, true. I agree.
So I'm in the awareness stage where I'm aware that identity crisis has been an issue.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. I understand. Childhood wounds. I think, to me, childhood wounds is the mother of all wounds. And it is the hardest to heal because it is unlearning who you have been, who you have believed you are, the worth you have, the values, the dream. It is unlearning and deprogramming all that and then becoming somebody that you hope you can be. So deconstructing a whole entity of who you have been and start building something else that you can actually be loved. You can actually have a present person, a present partner. Another key wound that was so hard was the element of nagging. Because you don't know, every goodbye is a sign that he might not come back. Has ever that happened to you?
I wouldn't call it nagging.
Yeah.
I'll call it over-communication or the need to be over-validated.
Yes.
Like reconfirm to me. Tell me I love you in the morning, at lunchtime, in the evening. Did you mean it? You mean it? You really love me? Do you?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So doubting your place in someone's life, that has been big.
Yes.
And just wanting that revalidation, extreme validation, has manifested a lot.
Yes.
However, healing is very fluid
Yes,
in
it
my
is.
context, because
It's
I
not
don't know,
linear. Yeah.
I do not know when I've now fully healed.
Yes.
Because when you think you've just overcome something, you meet yourself again, you're like, no, this sounds familiar.
Yeah. That's how healing is. Some people think that healing is reaching an ultimatum point where pain is no longer going to affect you anymore, or similar circumstances are not going to trigger the same emotions. No. Healing is there when you have a different way of coping.
I have learned that.
Yes, I have a different way of coping and dealing with the same triggers. When I'm triggered by this, I will cry. I will seek validation. I will question. I will ask. When I'm healed, I will notice that I'm in that state. I'm in that space. I'm in that state of seeking validation. What do I do to validate myself?
Yeah.
Instead of begging validation from someone who's probably emotionally disconnected from me,
Yes.
I need to give that validation back to me. If it means I have to come and tell you, hey, Faith, did you do this to me? You say, yes, I did that. That's the only answer I needed to make peace with yourself.
Yeah.
And then not going back to force somebody to give you the validation that they don't have.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So it's like realization that I'm in this space,
Yeah.
and then recognition, and then readjustment.
Yeah. And being comfortable with the fact that you are in charge.
Yes, true.
You know, I came to realize recently that I've invited people into very personal decisions because I don't know if I'm good enough or if I'm in charge. So you want to be seconded even while making the list of them good decisions for yourself.
Yes, yes.
You want approval. Hey, do it. You want that.
It happens so much, especially when you don't know, or when you're too hard on yourself whenever whatever choice you have made has
wrong.
Yes, has gone wrong, because you can't stand how hard you will be on yourself. You would rather delay in seeking approval, ideas, point of view from other people, and sometimes from the people who might deroot you from your
And
initial.
eventually have someone to blame when things go wrong. Because you don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah,
And you're
it's
like,
true.
you told me this and it went wrong. You told me this, you told me this.
So how can we talk about the childhood wound within our womanhood in parenting? Because here we are now, we are parents. We have not had that present father, that present mother, maybe depending on what context you are in. Now you are here as a parent. Do you feel obligated of doing it and giving your children a better experience? And sometimes do you feel guilty? Do you feel not good enough, or you're scared? What has been your experience when you finally became a mother?
First, I thought I didn't want to be my mother.
Yeah.
And now I want to be my mother. Because
Yeah.
at first I didn't understand. Actually, I grew very close to my mother after I had my firstborn.
Yes.
Because then the perspective shifted.
Yeah, true.
You know, a perspective of a child and a mother are two different ones.
Yeah, true. I agree.
So then I started understanding her story, understanding her choices, understanding every decision.
Yes.
And then now, having my second child, it cemented my fears of, I don't want to do what my mother did. I don't want to stay in the wrong place for long.
Yeah.
I do not want to be in an abusive space for long. I don't want to be in a polygamous situation.
Yes.
So I made decisions differently than my mother would have. And
Yeah.
also we are in different times. It's
Yes.
almost over how many decades later.
Yes.
Yeah. So as a mother, the first one was to be evasive and to run away.
Yeah.
But now I embrace the mistakes and I improve communication between my children and I.
Yes.
And so long as they can be able to fathom a discussion, I
Yes.
discuss every little decision that affects them.
Yeah, true. With them. That's very good. We cannot decide how we are born. We cannot decide from what dynamic we will be born, but we can choose to heal how it affects us. We can choose to change the narrative. We can choose to forgive to move lighter from the burden that happened to us in the childhood. We can stop to blame and start acting intentionally into healing, into build relationships, into becoming our best versions, into voicing our desires without necessarily fearing that I might be rejected, I might be hated if I show up as who I am, and being at peace with that, expressing your desires without controlling the outcome. That's what I would say. If you know you are someone who is dealing with childhood wounds, you need to have a mindset shift. You need to rewrite your existence. You need to have and calibrate your belief system. Mm-hmm. If you need help, we offer that kind of guidance and coaching. But accepting the fact that you are the master of that second chapter of your life. It's your first role. Instead of blaming, instead of, oh, I'm this, I'm that. Every way of seeing and viewing life depends on the lenses with which you can see life. Yeah. If you choose to see life with possibilities, if you can choose to see life with chaos, you will always see that.
About control.
Yes.
Because that control issue is very permanent with us.
Yes.
We either want to lose control or take control back.
Yes.
So I realized I used to want to give control to someone else because I don't want to take responsibility of my choices.
Yes.
So if I have someone to blame at the background, I'll be so happy because then it vindicates me or relinquishes me from responsibility.
Yeah, true.
So just taking back control of your life and having conversations with yourself, a good relationship with yourself before you apply yourself to other people is something I'm starting to embrace.
Yes, it's priceless, honestly. When you reach a point where you don't blame anybody for whatever reason, for whatever choice that you have made, for whatever shortcomings that has ever happened to your life, and choose to face and fix the gaps within, you become unstoppable. Mm-hmm. You become unstoppable, and there is nothing that is going to break you. I think the external forces break us when we have chaos within. When we have been able to manage internal chaos, there's nothing that is going to break you. People come, do this, and you remain unmoved. Mm-hmm. You say, okay, so what? Mm-hmm. Because there is inside, you are discussing from a point of fullness.
Yeah.
You are busy hurting because there is some things that they do outside. They validate your internal feelings.
And it's very interesting you said that.
Yeah.
Because I think we're just little children throwing tantrums and calling it life. Mm-hmm. Until you go back to that child.
Yes.
And speak with her.
Yes.
And grow with her.
Yes.
And bring her to your space. Transport her to where you are so that she's comfortable. And she's not opposing you. Then you've not healed.
Yes, you haven't.
Because sometimes when I examine my reactions to things,
yes,
and I see a pattern, then I know it's the little child or the little girl, the little boy throwing a tantrum.
Yes.
And you see how a 2-year-old can throw a tantrum and overreact when they don't get their way.
Yes, exactly. This is how I was being so interested by seeing how childhood wounds is manifested in a child who was born maybe with a father who's not that present. Mm-hmm. And they're almost similar to a child who was born with a present father. But my only context was my fighting as a child was also to be noticed as a child. Not as a little mommy. I felt like my childhood was robbed by trying to parent other children, by taking responsibility from a young age, by being the one doing things. And it grew in me, that pattern of saying, if I don't do this, nobody will. If I don't do this, I might be punished to have overlooked that. So you end up people please. You end up gatekeep. You end up enabling everyone else to move further and to go beyond, to give, not because you are giving from the overflow. You are giving the bottom to make everyone else comfortable.
Yeah.
What I'm reading here is that childhood wounds, it doesn't matter in what setting you are born.
Yeah.
Either from a functional family, from a dysfunctional family, from a parent who was single, or from a parent who was violent and bitter. They might have similarities and particularities,
Yes.
but they affect growth, how we grew up.
The same way.
The same way. And I'm seeing similar signs when we are now women, because we are dealing with self-esteem.
Yeah.
We are dealing with imposter syndrome. We are dealing with lack of worth. We are dealing with indecisiveness.
And however, for polygamy and single motherhood, but let me not speak about the single motherhood yet.
Yeah.
But I think how polygamy affects the women, the girls born in those families, is by making us be attracted to men who would father us.
Oh yeah, because you lacked the father.
So then you're looking for someone who will take decisions for you.
Yeah.
Who will, and wherever they go, you follow because that's all you've been craving all your
childhood.
Yeah.
Is someone giving you that attention of being protective, provider?
Yeah.
It's like a green flag in your assessment.
And you tolerate everything, including, cheating and maliciousness, because this person is filling a gap in your life.
Of being your father.
Yes. Or a father figure.
A father figure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's manipulative.
Yeah, so it makes us choose the wrong romantic partners most times than not.
Because you're seeking a dad in a lover.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we tend to choose particular people who are mostly controlling.
Yeah. Yes, because you're giving them power to lead you, to lead your life and all that. Yeah. I understand. Oh, wow. So how would we say a woman in that virtue, in that knowledge, in that understanding, in that acceptance, choosing to be intentional, choosing to come back to her own rail and say, hey, I'm here. I'm Faith, and I want to rediscover myself. I want to go back and relearn who I am, what I want, and trust my choices. What would you tell a young woman who is listening to us, either married or single, but she has been affected by all these life circumstances and they want to get back together? What could be your share of thought as a big sister?
First, if you're lucky enough to have your parents alive, have that closure with them.
Yeah.
Go understand their whys and heal from a point of knowledge. And then forgive yourself and know that your parents' decisions are not your own. And you do not necessarily have to reconcile their choices to what your mindset is right now.
Yes.
However, by accepting that, then you'll be able to have the permission to work on yourself.
Yes. To build
Give
back.
yourself permission to build back. Yes. Yeah. And also look and draw from the best experiences you might have had as a child and use them as an impetus to heal the bad ones by naming them, accepting them, and reversing them by telling yourself new truths.
Oh, amen.
So create new memories around that and tell yourself new affirmations, new truths every single day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this conversation. It was so enlightening. It was so deep. And thank you for being vulnerable with us, sharing your deep truth and deep journey. It's not easy to talk some of these things because they trigger some emotions, things that we have buried in the past. I really appreciate your share, and I hope you have also taken some notes and known some new ways of coping with this reality. And the importance of this podcast is to share our stories, to build hope, inspiration, and motivation to do better choices for ourselves, to take responsibility to build back, to become more assertive, to become more intentional in our everyday choice in how we live, how we date, how we transact, how we do business, how we negotiate, so that we don't, at the end of the day, blame it to our childhood wounds. We cannot control how we were born, but we can control how we choose to live. Thank you for listening. It was Coach Alice. Thank you.